in the assessment, you're actually expected to fail. You're encouraged to fail. You're told that if you don't fail, then you probably won't pass the course because you haven't learned anything new. He's testing if we can grow now. It's not just, are we good enough to be mountain leaders? It's, are we good enough to be in unfamiliar positions? We seem to have the wrong idea about failure. Failure for most people seems to be something that should be actively avoided. It's a very scary thing for a lot of people. But what I found myself through various adventures and various conversations with people is it should be sought out. It should be actively encouraged. If you can fail, you can learn about yourself. If you can realize what you're doing or what information you have is wrong, you can throw it away and let new information come in and new ways of acting. So I picked this up about a year ago when I was doing my mountain leader qualification. Now the mountain leader it's a leadership qualification essentially. It's really, really useful outside of the outdoor adventure world. If an employer has an interviewee who has a mountain leader qualification, they will see them and think, this person can lead people. This person can make decisions under pressure. This person embraces failure and actually learns from it really well. So in the outdoor world, a mountain leader takes people up mountains. They interpret the weather. They can read the weather just by looking at the sky, looking at the horizon. They can lead a group. They can make sure everyone's looked after, everyone's well, everyone's happy, everyone's optimally challenged. They can also look out for when people have had enough and they need to come back down the mountain. They plan routes, they plan contingencies, all sorts of things, while looking completely calm and like not much is really happening. So I wanted to become one of those people, mostly because I wanted to lead people in the outdoors, but also I wanted to become a leader, really. Before I decided to do this mountain leader qualification, I thought it would be something where you go in, you practice all the skills necessary, you go into the assessment, you demonstrate all the skills without making any mistakes, and you pass. But what it really was quite different. It was a case of you go in to the training, you practice, you learn all these skills, you go away, and in the assessment, you're actually expected to fail. You're encouraged to fail. You're told that if you don't fail, then you probably won't pass the course because you haven't learned anything new. So I'll just outline the structure of the course. So you do 20 days, at least 20 days of practice in mountains, on mountains. You then do training, which is 6 days, and they teach you all sorts of things like navigation, group management, pacing, timing, all these tools for keeping a firm knowledge of where you are in the mountains. They also teach you how to relocate if you get lost using what's around you, all the features, all the shapes of the hills, all the man-made features, that kind of thing. So a lot of fun. You then do another 20 days, at least 20 days, probably more, where it's called the consolidation period. You take this new knowledge and you go and practice it in days in the hills, in the mountains. And so that's really, really important. After that, you then do the assessment, which is 5 days. It's 4 days with maybe a few hours on the 5th day of just ticking any boxes, doing any things you might have not been able to cover due to weather. And you get a debrief where you find out if you've passed or failed. So walking into the assessment on the first day with Bryn Williams, I'd highly recommend doing your mountain leader with Bryn if you have any opportunity to get to Snowdonia, because he presented just a very calm and very accepting space where there was no judgment around failure. It was actually encouraged. And he told us on the first day, welcome to the assessment, firstly. You've reached a standard at this point. We're going to push you a bit further. You're going to push yourselves a bit further. And you will make mistakes. You will mess it up. But you'll learn from it and come back the next day better. We expect by the end of this assessment that you as trainee mountain leaders will be a lot further along in your skill set than you are right now. And I remember thinking that every assessment I've done in the past, I've walked into already finished, already with enough knowledge and experience and skill. But going into it or not being enough to pass yet was quite a foreign concept, and it scared me quite a bit. But I just thought I've just got to go along with it. I've just got to go along with whatever this is. So first day we went out into the mountains, and it was my turn to lead first. And Bryn said, "Take me from where we are now to here, to this point, to this little feature in the map." And I panicked a little bit. I rushed ahead and messed it up. And I said to Bryn, "Look, Bryn, I've messed up here. You told me to get us to here, which is all the way back there. We're exactly here right now on the map. I just wanted to put my hands up and let you know." And he said, "Well done, very good." And he said something like, "You might feel like you failed right now, but you've actually done really well. You've told me exactly where we are. You've admitted a mistake, and you've used the map to find where you are. And in reality, when you've got a group in the hills," he said, as long as you can do that, you're fine. Mountain leaders all the time miscalculate, they make mistakes, they get ahead on timing, they get distracted with the group. But as long as they know where they are, that's all you need to be able to do." Second time it was my turn. I used that. I thought, just take your time. Just breathe. Stop. Look up from the map. Look around where you are at where he's told you to go. And what he told me to do the second time was get us down this little bit of mountain, which was off path. There was no paths or anything. And we weren't really pushed for time. He said, "Just take your time. It's important you take your time. We're not going to mark you down for taking your time. What we will mark you down for is not learning from your mistakes." So I looked ahead of me, looked at where we have to go. I could see it. And I could see a little path trodden in by the sheep. I could see little sheep droppings. And I thought, the sheep know their way. The sheep, they live in the mountains. They're going to take the best path down. As stupid as we think they are, they're not that stupid. So I compared it with the map. I thought, this way is where the sheep have gone. And I thought, that's really good. I'm going to go that way. And I did. And I got us to exactly where Bryn told me to get to. And he actually said, that's exactly the way I would have gone, and congratulated me. So that was the end of day one. Day two was rope work, which I very, very nearly didn't pass. I was terrible with ropes. I still am. I tend to overthink knots for some reason. They don't make sense to me. Other people could just do them. They can learn them. But as much as I practice, I still mess them up after perfecting them. So that was quite worrying going into a rope day assessment. But he said to us on the rope day, he said, if you don't pass today, that's fine. You'll just have to come back another day in a few weeks. We say, whatever you don't pass in the mount, whatever you're not good enough, if you're not good enough at one specific skill set in the mountain leader, we don't fail you. We just say everything else is great except this one thing or two things. Go away, practice that one thing, come back, and we'll observe you doing that again, and then we'll pass you. Again, assessments in the past, you either pass them or fail them. If you're not good enough in one area, you fail the whole thing and you've got to do it all again, which seems quite ridiculous now, really, having gone through the mountain leader assessment. So I didn't do well on ropes, just passed with some help from Bryn. I tried the ropes, I tried the position. It was basically we have to assume that someone's fallen down the mountain. We have to tie ourselves to the mountain, something called an anchor point, a rock that won't move. Tie that to the rock, tie it to us, and then help the person up. And the knot was not quite right. It was too complicated, although it was safe. And he basically said, you've got to do this again. It's not what we expect to see. And did it again. But then I was standing up and he said, what's going to happen if someone falls now on the other end of that rope? And I said, they're going to pull me down. So I had to do that again and eventually got through to it. But again, he was just sort of he could see I wasn't quite ready, but he was feeding me new knowledge, or not telling me new knowledge. He was reminding me of what I've already learned. He was saying, like, have you gone over this at all? Have you thought of this knot? What other knots can you use? And he was putting me in a position of failure, like right on the edge of not being good enough, so that this new knowledge could come in. And I thought that's really, really good way of growing. Put someone right on the edge of failure, and let new knowledge come in so that they can put themselves back together and pass and do really well. And that's exactly what happened. I passed the ropes day. The next 2 days were the wild camping expedition. So we went up in the mountains, relocated all the time, all these different tactics, all these different skills. And again, the assessor kept us, it was a different assessor on this day. He kept us right on the edge of our skill set and our competence and how confident we were in ourselves. And I wasn't worried anymore. I wasn't worried about failing, because I thought, he's testing if we can grow now. It's not just, are we good enough to be mountain leaders? It's, are we good enough to be in unfamiliar positions and to deal with that and to use what we already have to become better? And that's another really interesting point about the end of the assessment in the debrief at the end. So when Bryn told me you've passed, well done, he said, you've passed, meaning you've reached a standard to be qualified as a mountain leader, but you need to improve constantly. Everyone does. Everyone needs to constantly be working to get better. So it's not a case of doing a maths exam or an English exam. To use that example of doing GCSE English, the mountain leader, it's a bit like saying, you've passed GCSE English, but you've got to continue working at it. You've got to continue writing letters. You've got to continue writing short stories. You've got to continue reading. You've got to continue speaking. And I do still do that. So I passed GCSE English, but I see that now as a point of competence. Doing this podcast, I write all the time. I write notes, I write episode ideas, I write through what I could say and come up with ideas that are bad ideas, good ideas. I throw the bad ideas away, and then I come and I do the best episode I possibly can. So being told that by Bryn on the final day was really refreshing. I'd known that all along, that assessment it should really just be a point of competence, a point of saying, you've reached a standard, now go out and continue doing whatever you're doing. Because assessments I've done in the past, I've done them and then I've forgotten everything and my skills have faded. And that's what he said. He said in the mountain, as a mountain leader, if you don't continue doing this, you will forget it all. Your skills will fade and you won't be at that point of competence again. You'll actually go the other way. Whereas we want you to go the right way, which is continue going out, continue leading groups, continue to learn, continue putting yourself in situations where you're not certain, you're not sure, you don't feel completely happy, and go into those positions and learn. Have you ever gone through something very challenging and realized at the end that you should have taken more time to enjoy it? Well, when I was doing the mountain leader qualification, I reached the end, I reached the debrief on the final day with Bryn, and I thought, I wish I'd have taken it slower. I wish I'd have not rushed it. So what I did was, I did the first 20 days over a few years, just with friends, other mountain leaders as well. I then went away traveling, did my big adventure and everything. I then came back and realized I want to do this as a career, so I did the training. And then the gap between the training and the assessment, I only left 5 months. You're meant to leave a minimum of 6 months. And Bryn said it was okay for me to do this because my skill level was already quite good. It was already at a certain level in the training. And so he said, just go and get 20 days really high up in mountains on really uneven ground, that really mountainous terrain, and you'll be okay to do the assessment. And my reasons for rushing were, I was starting up New Day Adventures. It's a little outdoor business where I lead people outdoors, and I wanted to be qualified to do it. I realise now it wasn't actually that important. People lead people all the time outside without the real qualification, but it was important for me to, if anyone ever asked, which they never have, are you a mountain leader? I could say yes. So I rushed it. Really what I wanted to do was maybe take another year to do all the days. What I really did was every bit of free time I had, I was out in the mountains practicing skills, practicing relocating, practicing getting lost and finding myself, practicing looking at the landscapes and just matching it up to where I was. And every little day off I had, I'd be up there, and I used to take my annual leave from where I used to work to go into the mountains, and it was really, really enjoyable, but there was a real sense of feeling rushed and a bit of panic as well. And I met Emma around this time, my wife, and all the time we really had together was in the mountains, which was lovely, but she didn't always want to come along up a mountain for 5 or 6 hours and be uncomfortable and be challenged. She quite often wanted to just sit in a cafe with a coffee and look at the mountains, but I made her come along because we wanted to spend time with each other. We were just getting to know each other, and it was better than not spending time together. And there were days where we'd be in the van and it would be peeing down with rain, but I'd still have to go out because I'd calculated how many days I had to get by the assessment, and that was that. So I quite regret doing that. I quite regret having that really tight deadline. I would have liked another year to just enjoy it a lot more, and not necessarily to get more practice, but just to enjoy the time in the mountains. So that's one thing. If you're thinking of becoming a mountain leader, just take your time with it, enjoy it. I really did enjoy all the days before the assessment and the assessment course. Just enjoy it, that's what I would say. And take your time. You won't get to do that again. Another thing I'd say if you're thinking of becoming a mountain leader is practice the things you're least comfortable with. So if that happens to be getting lost and finding where you are, practice that as much as you can. Don't practice what you're comfortable with because you're already good at that. It's a bit like practicing the piano. If you only practice what you're already good at, you're going to get better at that. But there's parts of a piece of music you're not good at, and if you practice those as well, the whole thing will be good. But if you don't practice it, it's not. And so the whole skill set has to be good to be a mountain leader, otherwise you can't be one. I could use the piano metaphor as well to outline why failure should be welcomed. Musicians are constantly making mistakes, constantly failing when they're practicing. They're playing a song and there's a wrong note or a wrong chord or whatever it is, and they then go back and they practice it correctly again 5 times, 10 times, and then they don't make that mistake anymore. And what they do when they're practicing is they're going through and they're looking for where they're not right, where they aren't quite good enough yet, and they set it straight. And they actively seek out failures, they seek out mistakes so that they don't have to make them when they're performing. Why isn't it like that in the world? Why isn't failure something we look for? Because if it were, then we'd be able to identify where we're not quite good enough yet. And if it was something that was actually encouraged, then we'd just become better people and we wouldn't be scared of it. But we are scared of it, and that's really, really silly. Growth doesn't happen when everything goes to plan and when you're comfortable and demonstrating what you're good at. It comes when you're in that place where you don't know what you're doing fully, and when you're not comfortable, and when things don't go to plan. If you could be comfortable putting yourself in that place, then you will grow and you'll get bigger and better and more skilled, and you'll become more desirable to employers, to partners, to your friends. You'll gain respect for yourself, other people will gain respect for you, and you'll just become the best that you can be. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, tell me, comment what you liked about it. If there's anything you'd like to add or anything you didn't think I covered, then again, send me a message, write a comment. Always looking for ways to learn. Next episode, I'm going to basically tell some stories from the hitchhiking journey that I think are really useful for people and also really, really interesting. Hope to see you then.